My name is Brock Peters, and on this channel I pick one book each episode to talk about and review. For those of you who don't know, I live in Canada, and there's a very diverse and interesting literary scene up here that embarrassingly I am utterly unqualified to talk about. I was looking over my bookshelves earlier today for Canadian authors, and I found a few of them. There's things like Robertson Davies, Timothy Findley, Chadwick Ginther, Joey Comeau, Nick Bantock, who does the Griffin and Sabine series. But none of those books really fall under the umbrella of my favorites. And so I figured today I'd talk about a Canadian author, one you've probably heard of. She's, I would say, our best known living author right now. Her name's Margaret Atwood. She's written books like The Blind Assassin, The Handmaid's Tale, Oryx and Crake. She just published a book called Medadam, which is the third book in the trilogy that started with Oryx and Crake, her sort of dystopian trilogy. In high school, grade 10 or 11, I read The Handmaid's Tale, and I really didn't enjoy it. It was just not something that resonated with me, and it wasn't enough to make me actively avoid Margaret Atwood's writing, but it was definitely enough to keep me from seeking her out. And I am going to read Oryx and Crake. That's on my short list. I've had a couple of friends say, dude, you got to read Oryx and Crake. That's the one to start with. So I haven't given up on her novels. The book I want to talk about today is a collection that's kind of hard to classify. It's called Good Bones and Simple Murders. And I picked this book up a few years ago and I fell in love with it. I really, really love this collection. It's a collection of short pieces. They're sort of short stories, flash fiction, some monologues, nonfiction pieces. In my head, I've been classifying them as prose poems. Because of the style that they're written in. They're written in a really lively style. It's almost got a rhythm to it. And they're very beautiful little pieces. It's a great between novels read because they're quite short also. Not too involved, really fun generally. Although there's lots to think about too. And the book itself is quite short. I've read it about 4 times and it's never taken me more than a day or two to get through it. And one of the reasons I was so captivated by this little Atwood collection was it gave me a window into a different sort of way of looking at short fiction beyond the 2,000 to 5,000 words beginning, middle, end sort of formula. For me, as someone who struggles to enjoy reading and writing short stories sometimes, it was just sort of a breath of fresh air, if you'll excuse the cliche. It was genuinely exciting for me to see the short form being used in such a creative way, and it really helped me to think outside the box in my own fiction. My only complaint about this collection is some of the pieces are based on myths and fairy tales, things like that. There's one about the little red hen, there's one about Hamlet and his mother, and I found that those pieces felt kind of contrived. They're just a little bit too cute. There's a few of them that lead off the collection, but after the first half they sort of disappear and it's all good for me. Yeah, and of course Margaret Atwood is well known for exploring a lot of feminist themes and themes of women's identity in her writing, identities. And many of the stories in this collection fall under that umbrella. My favorite passage from the book, and I had to do some thinking about this because there's a lot of really great passages in here, but my favorite passage is from a piece called The Female Body. And from what I gathered, it was a reaction on Margaret Atwood's part to a request from a literary magazine that she write on the topic of the female body. And she sort of had fun with it, with that request in ways like, I get up in the morning, my topic feels like hell. Really clever things like that. But my favorite bit is about halfway through the story where there's a mom and a dad having a discussion about their daughter who it seems like has just been given her first Barbie doll. And the mom and the dad are trying to figure out, okay, do we let her keep it? Will she feel singled out if we take it away? Or is it going to give her an unrealistic image of beauty? And then at the end, the section ends like this. She came whizzing down the stairs, thrown like a dart. She was stark naked. Her hair had been chopped off. Her head was turned back to front. She was missing some toes and she'd been tattooed all over her body with purple ink in a scrollwork design. She hit the potted azalea, trembled there for a moment like a botched angel, and fell. He said, I guess we're safe. And things like that really typify this book. Just fun, lighthearted, but they do carry a message as well, as with all Margaret Atwood writing that I've encountered. There's another collection, actually, quite similar, I recently picked up. It's called The Tent. It's that one. It's also a very worthwhile read. It didn't resonate with me quite the same way that the stories in Good Bones and Simple Murders did. And if you were going to read these two, I'd space them out a little bit so they don't fight. But also a worthwhile read. And I think that's about all I have to say about Margaret Atwood's Good Bones and Simple Murders. The word of the day today is crepuscular, and it comes from the Good Bones and Simple Murders collection I was just talking about. It's found in a story called My Life as a Bat. The quickness of heartbeat, the vivid plunge into the nectars of crepuscular flowers hovering in the infrared of night. And that's a very appropriate word for that particular story. Crepuscular is an adjective that means of, resembling, or pertaining to twilight. In zoology, it refers to an animal that's active at night, like a bat. It's one of those words where I can't really decide if it sounds beautiful or disgusting. I thought about it, and I think it looks beautiful written on the page, and then when you say it out loud, crepuscular, it sounds kind of gross. But that is the word of the day, crepuscular. Well, thanks for watching Book Talk with Brock. If you'd like to learn more about me or check out some of my own writing, you can head over to brockpeters.ca. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click the like button, and otherwise I will see you next time.